You know, Vic was incredibly confident about where he was going, and the last even right throughout this year, when Vic got the news, and I went and saw him on the first week when he found out, he was so confident. I said, "Do you worry about it?" He goes, "No." I said, "Oh, okay, so you're good?" He goes, "Yep." And he literally, the rest of the family's a mess. And Vic's just like, "No, it's good. No, I know where I'm going. I'm secure. You've taught me everything that I need to know about life after death." And unbelievably calm and confident. That didn't change a couple of weeks later. It didn't change 2 weeks ago, and it didn't change this week. And it was just an incredible testimony to see someone that not only lived life well, but when he passed from this life into the next, he 100% knew where he was going, how it worked, what he was doing, and he literally had a peace that was beyond understanding about where he was going, and that just reflected through his life. And I think you'll see more about that, on Thursday if you attend the service. So, putting that out there and letting you know, I was really inspired to preach today. And of course, it's directly after what I've just said about Vic, but I was really inspired to preach about death today. And I wanted to talk about life after death as the message today. Now, I know that I've done a stack of funerals, and you may have been to funerals, but I don't think in the 23 to 24 years that I have been here that I've ever spoken on a Sunday night or Sunday morning directly about the topic of death. We always talk about what Jesus has done and how he saved us from it, and how he's forgiven us for our sin, and how we should do life well on earth. But the crazy thing is that one day every single one of us are going to face what Vic faced last week. And there's absolutely no out from it. It's not like I'm going to escape it or someone cool's going to escape it. No one is going to escape it. And I want to help everyone understand how real this topic is and how it will happen to every one of us one day. And all of us, including myself, need to be prepared in our spirit, in our mind, and in our body. And we need to have that confidence that Vic had of what's going to happen after we die. So I want you to buckle up today, and if you want to take down a few notes or get your iPad out or iPhone out and write a couple of these scriptures down, these are scriptures that will really, really help you when you face this. Now, I know all of you young people that are sitting over there, obviously over here, obviously over there and downstairs and watching online. I know all of you young people are going, "Oh, well, come on, that's just so far away, we don't need to think about that." But you know what? You want to get your T's crossed and your I's dotted on this topic really early, because you never know what's going to happen. And biblically, no one escapes this. Everyone in some point in their life has to face this, and I don't believe that there's a better place to get information on this topic than from the Bible. Jesus spoke about it. Jesus historically was the only one that died and then came back from life and told us what to do and told us how to do it and told us how to get there. That is proven in history that that's happened. And when it comes to understanding this topic, Jesus has some real keys on understanding it, and he's basically the master of this topic, I believe. He's not just the master of this topic, he's the one that created us, and he's also the one that's going to take his creation back to be with him some point in our life or at the end of our life. That's a bit like Back to the Future thing. You'll never really work that one out. But it's definitely there, and we need to understand. It. So I want to talk to you first of all. First things is this. The first thing is, it's extremely normal, okay, to be scared about this topic and to be scared about what actually happens when I die, and especially what happens to me after I die. We don't like, even churches like us don't like funerals. I don't know anyone that likes going to funerals. People don't like funerals, don't like speaking at them, don't like going to them. They wish that they sort of almost never happened. Some people know people that die and they just don't want to go there. It's normal not to like it and not to be jumping up and down out of your seat about this topic. Even myself today, when I was preparing this topic and getting ready to talk about it, I thought, who wants to come to church and have unbelievable praise and worship? The lights are flashing, the music's pumping. We've got the best to do dancers, singer, DJ people happening up here. Sam's on point. We're changing the world. And then Mark gets introduced to preach, the senior pastor. And hey guys, I want to talk to you about when you're going to die. It's not the number one topic that people want to hear about. Yet, as I said before, it's going to happen. Listen, just try and comprehend this, okay? Because it freaks me out when I say it out loud. One day, I am definitely going to die. But so are you. You are definitely going to die. Now you might say, well, I didn't come to church to hear that. I wanted to be uplifted and, thought it was going to be good. But listen, Jesus spoke a lot about this topic. And when you understand it, it becomes more normal to die than what we think it is. And although there's a grieving for the family and the people that are close to you, and hopefully the people that are close to me will grieve a lot, cry a lot, be upset for months and months and months and never get over it. Although that's for them, I'm the one that has to face going into the next life when it's my turn to go, and we need to know what happens with this topic and exactly how it's done. And that's why Jesus spoke to us about it. And this is what he said in John 14, verse 1. And you want to write this one down because it just starts right where we're up to tonight. And it says this: do not let your hearts be troubled. Now, whenever the word death comes up, or whenever you get a bad, report from the doctor, and they talk about you've only got a certain amount of weeks to live, months to live, or if you don't change, you're going to die early. Whenever that topic comes up, it is a worrying topic. It is concerning when you go to the doctor and he tells you something. It is upsetting when you think about someone that only has a certain amount or X amount of time to live. Even though we've all got an X amount of time, when someone puts a number in that X, it becomes more concerning. Yet Jesus just says this: don't let your hearts be troubled. Like, why are you troubled about this problem? Why are you upset about this? Why are you concerned that someone has just told you that this body that you live in is about to give up and your spirit's going to leave that body? Why are you so concerned? And do not let your hearts be troubled. Then it says, trust in God and trust also in me. Now, if we understand that God is there and he's up there, and Jesus is now speaking to us, who's been sent by God to save the world and forgive us for all of our sin, Jesus is saying, listen, let's not make this an awkward topic. In fact, for Christians, it should be a topic that comes up a lot, especially in the world, because everyone in the world is doing the exact opposite, and they're freaking out when this topic comes up. It's a really tough time. And Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. Jesus speaking. Then he says this: in my Father's house are many rooms. And if it were not so, I would have told you. And then Jesus says, I am going to prepare a place for you. Summer? Jesus came to earth. He did all that he did that we talk about every other week. He died on the cross, which we talk about, for our sins. And then he says, I got to go and make something for you. I got to go and build you a house. I've got to go and fix up a little spot in heaven for you. The reason for him leaving was to go and make somewhere for you to live after you leave this body. That's why he left. And I'm just like, wow, when you see it like that, it's like, This topic is becoming less and less scary the more I understand it. And we have got to understand it as people that follow God. And we have got to understand it to know what happens to people and exactly what happens to us. And he says, I'm going to prepare a place. There's plenty of rooms up there. And I'm going to go and prepare one of them for you. And if I go and prepare it for you, which he did, I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you may be where I am also. So not only is he going to prepare a place for us, he then says that he's going to come back to each and every one of us. He's going to take us, not the world, not sickness, not COVID, not cancer. Jesus comes back and takes us at our appointed time, which he knows when it is. I'll get to that in just a moment. And then takes us and puts us where he is so we can live with him forever. And that's the place that we call heaven. And when you look at it, the way that he's looking at it, death is actually a promotion from this life into heaven. And God is coming one day for each and every one of us, and death will happen to each and every one of us. And it's not something you should be, it's not, look, I don't want you to go home and go, you know what, this is awesome, can't wait to die. And you got young people go home and say, oh, did you enjoy church? Yep. What happened? Can't wait to die. I'm not starting a cult where we all kill ourselves because it's better off being dead than alive. We're going to live the life that God's given us, and we spend 99% of the time talking about that because it's very, very important. But it's also important to realise that the 1% of the time when we talk about this topic is that it's actually a promotion to die because we get to go to be where God is. And it's not this scary, upsetting topic. It's horrible for the people that are left. I got to admit that. My dad's passed away and other people I know have passed away. And it is horrible for the people that are left. And they're the ones that we need to comfort and get around and support and help. But for the person that passes away, they've just been promoted. Like they have literally gone to a place that Jesus has gone and made for them, and then he comes back and takes them at that appointed time, and it's done. Now let me talk to you about how many days on earth you may have, because I can't give you an exact number, okay? So please don't sit here and think, I hope I get a prophecy today, I hope I get a prophecy today. It's number 365 years. No, that's a lot of years if it was true. But I was just making it up. And no, it wasn't days, it wasn't minutes. It was years, okay, we're covering our base there. Because if he died in 365 minutes, I'd be in a lot of trouble. But you've got to understand that there is an appointed time. And look what David wrote under the influence of God in Psalm 139 verse 16. And it says this, you talking to God, this is David speaking, he says, your eyes saw my unformed body. All of the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. God is not shocked when people pass away. We are shocked. We're upset, especially if it's an accident and there was no warning to it, or somebody, let me get a drink, somebody just got a diagnosis and all of a sudden it was just like a lot sooner than they thought. We are shocked by that. But God is not shocked by that. God said every single day that you're going to live on this earth was ordained for you, and it was written in a book before your days even started when you were born. So I can't give you the day. No one can give you the day. But God knows the day, and God knows every single day that he's prepared for you. He knows every single day that he's ordained for you. He knew the day you were going to be conceived. He knew the day you were going to be born. And he knew the day when you were going to be promoted to go and live with him. And when we see it through those eyes, we've got to make sure that every day that God has ordained for us, we do what God's ordained for us to do within that day. That's why a wasted day is a wasted day. And I wonder whether God's up there sometimes scratching his head and going, man, I gave that person this many days, and he spent 3 of them watching television, and I had something for him to do on those days. See where I'm going with this? It's connected with what we do now and also connected to where we are going. Psalm 39 verse 4 says this. It says, show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. Now there's a prayer if you've ever heard a prayer. I've already said I can't tell you the days because I don't know. David doesn't know the days, but he understood what I'm speaking to you now about, and he's going, well, God, if you've ordained every day for me, and you know exactly what day I'm going to be born and what day I'm going to die, then here's my prayer. Show me the number of my days, and show me how fleeting my life actually is. You have made my days a mere hand's breadth. The span of my years is nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem super secure. What? Like, I went from, God, we've got to make sure that every day counts and death is the most horrible thing we could ever speak about and we should never want to know about it, to hang on a minute, we've been promoted to be with God. Now our days are counted and they've been ordained by God, every single one of them. And then David says, when you look back at it, your life is just but a one breath to God. And when you think about the generations that have come before us and possibly the generations that become after us, and I look at my life and realize that in the big picture of things, it is but one breath. I don't feel as important as I did before I started writing this message up. Because I thought that the last 25 years I've run this church and done what I've done and worked with people like Vic and Connie and everybody else that's here. I thought, this is amazing. Like, literally, the world's never going to be the same because of Mark Minturn. And then I read, it's just one breath. It was good to have, but now you're gone. Who's next? Wow. Is anybody getting a different perspective on death, like just understanding it? Like, I mean, it's just good to know and to write these things down. Let me put it this way. This body that we live in is nothing but the house that our spirit lives in. Our spirit is the real us. Our spirit is what, it may not be doctrinally correct, but it's like your personality. It's like the real you. It's like the thing that's on the inside of you that makes you different from everybody else. And it's the real you, your personality. It's your spirit. That's what makes you you. And that part lives forever. But the body, the skin, the everything else, that's just the house that the spirit lives in. Let me give you some heads up on a few things. While you're on this earth, your body is going to get old. And every day, it's going to get older. Your hair's going to go grey, or it's just going to go completely missing. Bits of your body are going to sag. Instead of being north, they're going to be south. Your skin is going to get old, dry, and wrinkled. Your immune system is going to get less, and you're going to get sicker and sicker and sicker until you die. Well, that wasn't really that encouraging, was it? But we're all on that journey. That's why I said it like that. I can't stop my hair going grey. I can't stop the top of it falling out. I can't stop my skin getting wrinkled. I can do everything I can with all of the ads on television and more than 8 like shopping channels to try and slow it down. But at the end of the day, at best, is I can slow it, but yet God knew when every single day that was ordained for me anyway. And we are all on this journey of getting older, and this shell, this body that we live in, it's not going to last forever. It was never made to last forever. It's better when it's younger, and she's worse when she gets older. And the older you get, the worse she gets. I had a list of the 50 things that happen to people when they get old, and I read through them this afternoon. I thought I can't read half of them in church. But they're just 50 things that happen when you get old. I'll tell you one that I do remember. Instead of coming home at 3 in the morning, you're getting up to go to the toilet at 3 in the morning. Just there's 50 things that happen when you get old. And it was a whole bunch of them. And I'm just like, well, I can't, that'll just take up way too much time. But we need to realize that we are going in this direction. And the question that Jesus has in verse 4 is, do you know the place where you are going? Do you know what's going to happen when your days are up and you find yourself in the same place that Vic found himself in last week? Do you know where you're going to be when you find yourself in that place, and how are you going to use your days between now and then? Jesus said this in John 14. Jesus answered, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And no one gets to the Father. The Father's the one that's made the many rooms in heaven. No one gets to the Father except through me. One of the things you need to remember more than anything else, if it's the only thing you ever remember in your entire life, is this: you cannot get to heaven and you cannot get to eternity without knowing Jesus. You cannot get there without knowing that He is the way, that He is the truth, and He is the life. He is the one that showed us how to get there. He's the one that told us the truth about how it all works. And He's the one that gives us life, both in this life and in the life to come. And that's the only way to take advantage of this promise. You know, John 3:12 says this, and it's a famous scripture, but let me read it out to you. It says this: I have spoken to you on earthly things, and you do not understand. So how will you ever be able to believe about heavenly things? This is something that happens to a lot of people. A lot of people can't understand how life works down here on earth, let alone how it really works with what we're talking about today. But Jesus knew that, and that's why He tried to explain it, and then He just cuts into John 3, verse 12. He talks about that. He said, no one has ever gone to heaven except for the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. He knows the way. And just as Moses was lifted up on the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. That's talking about when Jesus died on the cross for every sin and every mistake that you made. And if you trust and believe and thank Him for taking the place for every sin and every mistake you'd ever made by dying on that cross, that is the only way to get into heaven. That's why we talk about that here in church so often. It says that everyone, verse 15, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in Him. For God did not send His Son into this world. For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish, but have that eternal life that we've been speaking about all day. For God did not send His Son in the world to condemn it and say why you can't make it, why you shouldn't make it, why you're not allowed to make it, why you can't get to heaven, why you can't have this life after death. He did not send Jesus down here to tell you why you couldn't make it. He sent Jesus down to earth to tell you how you can make it, how you will make it, and how because of what He's done and been lifted up on that cross, there is no reason why any of us will not make this. And that is what is so exciting about it. For God did not send His Son to condemn it, but to save it. God knows exactly what we need to do, and He knows exactly how to get it. Verse 19 says this, and I want to leave this as one of the closing things I want to leave with you. It says this straight after all of that in John 3:16, and it gets down to 19, and it says this: but this is the verdict. This is what happens in life. This is how it unrolls, okay? The verdict is this: light has come into the world, but people love the darkness instead of the light because their deeds are evil. So Jesus knew, He knew that even though someone like me would tell you about this at church, even though you would hear about His amazing grace, even though you'd hear about life after death, even though you'd hear about many rooms, even though you'd hear about what Jesus is going to do, some people, here's the verdict, some people just don't want to come into the light. They don't want to know about God, and they don't care about the afterlife, and they don't care where they go, and they just don't want to be a part of it. And that's why so many people aren't in church, not looking towards God, not worshiping him, not loving him, and not thanking him because of what he's done. You know, 2 Corinthians 5 says this in my last verse for the day. It says this: "For we know that if this earthly tent we live in," that's our body, "is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands." So we ought to make it our goal to please him, whether we're at home in the body or whether we're away from the body and up in our new body in heaven. We should make it our goal to please him. "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one of us may receive what is due to us for the things we've done while in the body, whether good or bad." Here's the bottom line. Be careful how you live your life while in this body. Be careful on the choices that you make. Be careful of the things that you do, whether good or bad. Because when you leave this body, when you leave this tent, and one day all of us will, when we leave it, we're going to face God and be rewarded for all the good things we've done. Cause for love, the offerings, the helping the school, blah, 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 all the nice and kind words you've said to everyone. You're going to be rewarded for all of those things when you get there. And God is watching what he's ordained for us to do on each day. And then he's going to reward us for what we did for him. And we're going to face the judgment, whether good or bad, on what we did while we're in this body. So let's keep walking with God. Let's keep his grace on our life. And let's remember, all of us are getting older every day. And all of us one day are going to die and leave this body. And that one day God is coming back for the very thing that he created in the first place, which is me and you. You know, I love Vic, and I'm going to miss him dearly, as I do many other people that have passed away. But when you understand this, not only does it give you reassurance for your life, but when you grieve for the loss of someone, you've also got that inside feeling of, I know where he is, I know where he's gone, because I know what he believed. And Vic was an absolute testimony of what I just shared with you. I said to Vic, Vic, what do you want me to preach at your funeral? And he says, you tell him everything that's about to do with what's happening right now. Tell him everything. And I said, I'm not sure I'm allowed to preach for half an hour at your funeral. And then he said, well, I got plenty of time. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll make sure everyone in our church understands this, because if you've got it and you're living it, everybody else in this church and everybody else in the world should know it and live it as well, because it makes a big difference knowing this stuff when it gets to the end of our days. Unfortunately, I'm getting closer and closer to that time. But the good news is that some of you are older than me and will beat me there. The bad news is that some of you are a lot younger than me and will be doing my funeral. So please take as long as you want at my funeral. Won't be a problem, and make sure everybody understands this message. Got it? God bless you.